Namaskar, everyone. I'm Ravi Gupta. I am editor-in-chief of Digital Learning Magazine, and this magazine is India's and Asia's first and only magazine focusing on ICT and innovations in education. And we are here at the 18th edition of the World Education Summit, and the whole idea here is to bring together leaders in higher education and discuss about the new challenges and opportunities which have emerged due to the COVID-19 situation and overall changing dynamics due to the new things happening around IT industry, artificial intelligence, and overall changes in workplace due to COVID. So we have an eminent panel with us, and I welcome all our eminent panelists. And I request our moderator, Professor Atul Khosla, to kindly take over the session and let's have some interesting discussions. Thank you. Welcome all the panelists and our moderator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ravi. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Atul Khosla, and I'll be the moderator of this wonderful discussion today. The topic is bridging skill gaps between academia and industry. And I'm excited about this discussion for two reasons. I've been in academia for the last 15 years, but prior to that, I was on the other side in industry, actually hiring, lots and lots of hiring from top business schools of India. I used to be with McKinsey and Company at that point of time. So I've seen both sides of the coin. I also understand the challenges from both sides, from academia and industry. And it gives me great pleasure to be here, especially because of this wonderful, esteemed panel that we have today. The first question that I'm going to sort of bring up before I sort of get into the context is really about recruitment and placements and the relevance of skills in the context of that. We all understand that what we teach in academia might not be always very relevant to recruiters or to the industry. I think that's been spoken about millions and trillions of times. But I've also believed that giving screwdriver skills is not what a university should be doing. A university, in my opinion, has to give broader problem solving, life, and leadership skills to students to succeed. And specific skills along the way are actually the role of the employer to give. That's at least my opinion. And that's the first question which I'd like to sort of pose to the panel, which is, do you see universities changing their strategies in terms of their education, probably becoming too skill-centric in the endeavor of providing skills to students and getting them employed? And have you dramatically seen any change that has happened post-COVID? So what changes have you seen over the last 3 years in terms of thinking of universities in terms of skills? Is my first question. And I'll request Professor Prem Vrat, he is the most experienced out of all of us, to probably answer this question. Over to you, Professor Vrat.
Thank you, Dr. Atul. In fact, you very rightly mentioned that we are perhaps universities are becoming skill-centric. Now, to me, we've been using the term knowledge skill almost as if they are not interacting with each other. To me, more than skill is the key concept of employability. And employability requires an integration of attitude, knowledge, and skill, where knowledge and skill multiplied by the attitude, which is a critical success factor. So we must see all these three attributes together rather than either or. So overplaying one on the other, to me, skill is the capacity to use that knowledge to solve the problems of the society. And obviously the skill that you acquire is intimately linked up with the knowledge, which itself is almost doubling every 2 years. And therefore, as a result, as the knowledge is very dynamically changing almost exponentially, so would be the skills required to adapt that knowledge to solve the problems of society. And therefore, first thing that we must understand that knowledge, skill, and attitude are not independent of each other. They have mutual interdependence, and therefore look at all the three together. And secondly, as the knowledge is expanding almost very exponentially, no university or institution can afford to have the hardware dimension sit in a very short time. That's why you require the need of the industry to support, because today industries are far ahead of the universities when it comes to the hardware, and therefore maybe the joint collaboration between the two in terms of hard skills and so far as soft skills are concerned, which would require again the integration of the two, and therefore it's the hard skills gaps, and therefore the skill gap in amongst hard skills may be not as dominant as the skill gap in soft skills, and therefore it is together that we need to do, and for that a major fundamental transformational change that both the parties ought to have. Right now, industry and academia have been almost either looking as if they are independent. There's a degree of indifference, or maybe they're not. The moment we recognize that both are mutually interdependent, and neither academia is superior than industry, nor industry is superior, is a mutual interdependence. To me, both are the two sides of the same coin, and therefore this mutual interdependence would mean that they should aim at having a shared vision of maximizing the employability of all these three attributes, and in the process whichever party can contribute in whichever manner to enrich that shared goal would do. And that to that extent, if the industry looks at these academia as the nursery of their future talent pool, their whole perception about them would change. Because from where would they get the talent in future unless we nurture these academic institutions? And if the academic institutions look at the industry as the ultimate purpose for which they exist, so this strong sense of mutual interdependence would make them come together in a genuine interest in developing, and in the whole process, right kind of skills would be evolved, right kind of curricula would be evolved jointly, and therefore it's a joint evolution. Right now, the current practice is that we do have board of studies in which we have one person from industry present, and my experience has been that most of the time this fellow does not come saying that he suddenly some very important things have happened. Even otherwise, a simple one person present in a board of studies does not represent the industry in general. So a more intimate relationship, more frequent visits to at each other's place is required, and therefore there has to be a transformational fundamental mindset change on the part of both. And if that happens, and we look at a shared vision of employability, skill would find its right place and will not become too skill centric.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vrat. I think that was a wonderful point of view that you had, especially around knowledge versus skills. And I'm going to come to Rajita for that. I'll also request the panelists to just introduce themselves for half a minute before you speak. So, Professor Vrat is one of the most esteemed educationists of India. He's been with on the boards of IIT Mandi and Dhanbad, and now associated with Northcap University. Thank you for that, sir. So, Rajita, this whole thing about knowledge versus skills, and how do universities deliver this? So, one thing at Shoolini, for example, that we have done, we have said that the role of universities is to provide a great culture and a free culture to help students to start thinking, and let the skills be outsourced to friends like Coursera. So we've tied up with Raghav's firm. We are a Coursera on campus university now, where we are saying, okay, skills are important, but our role is a little different. Our role is to make them great human beings. Our role is to develop them, nurture them, and in the process also give them skills. How does Sri University think about it? I mean, you're probably amongst the most spiritual amongst all of us when it comes to education. I'm sure you've got some very deep thoughts about education, how Guruji thinks about it. So we'd love to hear about your philosophy about, knowledge versus skills, and how do you run that at Sri University?
Thank you, Atul, and thank you for asking me this question, because this was something I wanted to actually share today, and you are leading into it. So, Professor Vrat's ideas are, absolutely they resonate, I think, with all of us, because as long as we don't have an equal partnership approach to each other, industry and academia, I don't think we are going to solve this sort of a never-ending puzzle. And the question you asked, Atul, so I want to tell you a short story. We are a very young university, probably the youngest amongst all the panel here in India as well. And, we started from scratch, in fact, from negative. Our land was an illegally quarried land. So we really went through a lot of topographical challenges, all the challenges that setting up a whole new institution from scratch you have to deal with, and you know that, Atul. So I remember one of the first town halls we were doing, and Gurudev was on campus. Because you asked, brought in Gurudev, I want to use this example. Gurudev was in campus, and he was doing he was interacting with the students and faculty. And that town hall was full of, this is not working, that is not there is no light in this patch of the land, or, the water went away at this time. And, the typical challenges that come up with a brand new, yet to be established campus. And at that time, Gurudev told all the students that, listen, you could have been in a place which is a ready campus, which is great. That is another experience. But you have the chance now to build it and learn as you build your campus, your university. So somehow, Atul, from that day, the culture or the attitude on the campus is not what I want from it, but how I can build it. And I think that is a good mindset to be able to cultivate in students, because somewhere when our students even enter industry, it is a sort of a, what am I getting out of it, whether it's salary, whether it's the roles, whether it's the positions. So I think, as you very beautifully said, what is the role of us as a university? What mindset are we nurturing? What culture are we nourishing? And if you look at it today in the world, see, the pandemic has anyways changed everything for us. But even otherwise, all of us have spoken on future of work. Now, you say critical thinking, you say stakeholder sensitivity. We cannot teach this in a classroom. Students have to be able to experience those situations and therefore learn it. So we are in a rural sort of a neighborhood. We have so many villages around. We realize that unless you are interacting with the villagers, some of our kids, Atul, they have not even seen what a village looks like, right? So how can you become sensitive to that community as a stakeholder? So a few things I think all of us can think about, which is something which is always on my mind. Number one is, how do we cultivate skills that cannot be taught? Like, you cannot teach empathy. You cannot teach someone to be kind. You cannot teach someone that it is that it is important to be ethical. You can create situations. I think we need to look at that, creating situations where students realize the importance of it, and therefore over a period of time these values sort of integrate in them. And I think that is going to be very, very crucial. Secondly, the pandemic has taught us that, I think all of us, and we have all as education leaders, are still going through it, that how do we navigate the unknown? And this unknown, I think, is going to be a permanent feature of our life. So that is something I'm also looking for some great, ideas to hear from everybody, that how do we teach students to navigate the unknown? How do we create that environment? Thirdly, I say this every time, self-awareness, mental health, resilience. Put it in a bucket, if you will. But, look at the number of depression, suicide cases, people just unable to deal with the challenges of their life. Now, there, of course, we are lucky to be in a country like India, which has the heritage of meditation, the old traditions we have alive. How can we keep them alive and create an ecosystem in our campuses so students have that? So that's the third. And fourth, we are all saying it, we are going to land up having 6 careers in our lifetime. Medical science will progress. We will live to 100 years. We will do 6 careers. So the time when I got skills when I was 20, or I graduated when I was 22, and that lasted me till I'm 80, I think that time is gone. So how do we create the continuous learning ecosystems for our students and basically those who wish to learn from university setups? So
that's a very interesting point. Sorry, I'm interrupting. I want to sort of juggle the discussion a little bit over here, Rajita. You brought in a very important point over here, which is around disruption that's happening inside universities, moving to continuous education. And I want to, move over to Raghav over here. Raghav, you're on the other side. At one level, you're competitors to universities. At another level, you are providers of services to universities. And I'm going to ask a slightly controversial question, which I promised at the start. And my question is this debate redundant? Academia versus industry. And let me tell you why. There's a recent article in The Economist, actually the latest Economist, which talks about the fact that the golden age of universities in the world is over, which basically they're indicating that universities might actually become redundant and players like Coursera might actually take over, or new forms of learning might take over. What's your stance on this whole debate? Would universities play a role, and would universities have to change dramatically in this whole thing about giving employability to students?
Yeah, thanks, Atul. So it's obviously hard to predict what will happen, but it is easy to see what has happened in the last 2 years. So maybe I can share a little bit of what has happened, and it's been dramatic, and maybe I can put out a point of view on is this debate redundant, right? And just as context, so I have the benefit of data. There are 8 crore learners on our consumer platform. There are 150 universities and 50 companies who teach on our platform. And we work with about 2,500 businesses. We work with about 3,700 universities who are using our platform for their students. And then we work with about 300 plus government organizations. So I have the benefit of data, and a lot has shifted, I would say, in the last year. We work with industry, and industry has been telling us that we are undergoing what they are calling, and the World Economic Forum is calling, double disruption. Automation was already happening. COVID accelerated it. And so industry is expecting going forward, there will be lesser jobs because automation is kicking in. 40% of CHROs and CLOs that I speak to say that the skills that we need in our workforce are going to change dramatically. Companies like Coursera and many of our peers are saying that even when COVID goes away, work from home will not go away completely. We will continue to work from home. And digitization is happening in almost 90% of the companies. And so industry is telling us that the future working professional, irrespective of what discipline they might have studied, need skills which are in digital and data, need skills which are in human domains as well. And Professor Vrat and Rajita spoke about that. And the biggest skill that industry talks about is learnability, because like Rajita said as well, we will have many careers, technology will change. And I think a lot of differences will come in. And so if I were to simplify some of this from a higher education perspective, yesterday it might have been okay to do an MBA and come into the job force. But today, an MBA student needs to possibly think about MBA with specialization in digital marketing, because a company will say to that MBA that we appreciate your marketing knowledge, but we also need you to know digital marketing. Along with digital marketing, we need you to know how to use a tool like Canva. And then how does my company use a tool like Canva for digital marketing? That we are willing to teach you. So whether it's knowledge, whether it's skill, at least from a career standpoint, industry is not really thinking too much about it. But are you learning marketing? Are you learning digital marketing? And are you even learning Canva on campus? And by the time you come to us, we teach you how our organization uses Canva, is the skilling bit that the industry wants to use. And my sense is this debate of knowledge versus skills and who teaches what will probably go away, given this shift that we have seen in the last 1 year because of double disruption.
Wonderful. I think you still didn't answer my question whether universities will become redundant or not. So I'll come to that. I won't leave you on that one. I know it's a difficult one for you to answer because it's a double whammy for you. Your clients are universities also. So
I can, sorry, I completely forgot. But if you want, I can at least put out a point of view
would love to hear that.
Or happy to come back to it later as well.
Sure. Why don't you answer that?
So at least our view, based on, again, what we are seeing in the country and around the world, is the university is definitely not going to go away. I think what will get established is what is the participation of online and on-campus education. Over the last 1 year, we've seen everything happening online, whether it's faculty from the university teaching online or students learning on a platform like Coursera. I think a lot of the cutting edge skills, a lot of the technology related skills will permanently possibly move to platforms like Coursera. And maybe that is 20% of a degree, maybe that is 30% of a degree, maybe it's 40%. But a lot of the fundamental skills, I think, will hopefully continue to stay on campus. I have kids who are going into college as well, and I hope that is what continues to be the case as well.
Okay, that's a good answer, and that's a diplomatic answer. Thank you, Raghav, for that. We have Tarun, and Tarun is the CEO and founder of Universal Business School, one of the leading business schools in the country. That's a question for you now, Tarun. You being a business school have to go out and place your students, and of course, you'll be the closest to the industry on that. Are you seeing any major changes in recruitment strategies in terms of the skills that recruiters are asking for, but also more importantly, are recruiting strategies changing that you've seen over the last 1 year, very specifically, especially for this year? And how can universities or schools like yours gear up to that change?
So thank you for this wonderful opportunity. A little bit about myself. I come with 2 decades of corporate experience, and that's what we bring to the table. So in many senses, we say we are industry, and the school has a bunch of 60 CEOs who are actually guiding us through this entire. So industry is in partnership with us. So what I think is, just to make a very quick point on I see this COVID as a chance to completely renew. We were doing things the way we were doing. So I see this as an opportunity, as a renaissance for the education sector. It's a wake-up call. There were technologies, which Raghav has said, been there for several years, but we had our head in the sand. And it's a wake-up call. And I think, the world has moved between the left brain and the right brain. So things that the left brain does very well is technology, right? Create critical analysis. That should be taken over by machines, and that's going to go away. Where the right brain comes in is where the university should focus on. And we heard earlier about things like empathy, things like compassion, things like ethics. This is where creativity, these are areas which the right brain will we need to accentuate those skills. And I think the industry is very clear, right?
I think we lost Tarun. Am I audible, or is it Tarun's problem?
I think it's my problem, but am I back?
You're back, Tarun. Over to you.
Great, sorry. So I think the industry is very clear that they are saying to us, we want you to teach the skills which is very difficult to create in a real world. When the machine is moving, it's like flying a plane and building it, right? It's going to be difficult. So you become a great place for that. So the skill sets are very, very similar, right? Bigger emphasis is on, they're always telling us, of course, the hard skills of digital transformation. Every business is going to transform itself. So digital, we are moving into the era of digitalization of everything. So I see that we're going to put together, and I think partnering with platforms like Coursera is going to make that easier. Now, the soft side of it, how do we create an environment where these skills can be learned, right? So whether it's going into, as we heard from Sri University, going into the rural areas and giving them environment. So our job, we see it as creating that environment of what can be done in the classroom and can be taken online should go online, right? Let's not waste time. Let's not fight that battle. Whatever can go online should go online. There are certain things, and students also like it. They can learn at their own time in a personalized basis with adaptive technologies. So that's going to happen. That bus is there. We got to catch that. Now, what can we make? How can we transform the classroom and the learning? 50% of the learning in any campus, I believe, is outside the classroom, right? So how can we make that into a form of art, whereby the students get immersed into learning opportunities where they can actually push themselves, the whole peer-to-peer things which online typically cannot do as well as a face-to-face. Those are things that we need to focus on. And so at UBS, what we do is we create we have like an experiential learning waterfall, and we look at every activity that a student can do, which online cannot do, right? So we do it the other way. And say, okay, how can we bring this into the curriculum, into the particular course, and then deliver it and put a skill set associated with each of those skills at the end of it. And then have a lab where we measure those skills, right? So we say, I would love to get to a point where we can put a scorecard in front of our corporate recruiters and say, you're looking for these 10 skills in your particular role, and these students are the ones who match those skills. Now you can go and test them out.
Excellent. I think you spoke about learning outside the classroom, Tarun, and you gave a number like 50%. I'll slightly disagree. I think it's actually 80% of the learning happens outside the classroom. Probably, again, you were being a little diplomatic like Raghav, but we will still give it to you. I think you brought in a very, very important point. Around 2 months back, and I meditate a bit, Rajita, so I was asking this question during my meditation: what makes a great university? And it's a very simplistic answer, but I got that aha. And the aha moment was, a great university is where there's a culture where you can express yourself freely without any risk, and you can attract talent from across the world wherever they are. You create almost like a beehive where talent comes in terms of scholars or students. And I think that's what creates a great university. That's my opinion. So my question is going to be to Dr. Karunakaran related to this. You probably run one of the largest institutions in the country. Hindusthan education institutions are definitely amongst all of us. I know you would have had thousands of students running in your institutions. How difficult it is for such a large institution to transform itself. And I think this is relevant to the public sector also, and you're probably closest to that, because the biggest challenge we have is it's easy for Rajita, me, or Tarun to probably transform a 4,000, 3,000 student university. But if you have a 20,000 student university and you have to transform that into new ways of thinking, a new university environment, learning outside the classroom, online or relevant online skills, which becomes very, very important. How do you go about doing that? And what are the challenges that you've seen, Dr. Karunakaran?
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Atul. Hindusthan Group in Coimbatore, we have 11 different institutions. And we are not a university. All our institutions are affiliated institutions. We are really waiting for the NEP implementation so that it's easy for us to move towards university status. Yeah, as you said, about 20,000 students.
Absolutely. At least I got the students right. Yeah, you've got a large number of students, 20,000.
Yeah, almost we offer all the variety of education here. We are into engineering, nursing, physiotherapy, pharmacy, arts, science, management, commerce. Every vertical is available with Hindustan. Fine. Real challenge in front of us, bridging the gap between the industry requirement with that of the academia. If it is an university status, it might be a little easy for us, but being an autonomous institution affiliated by university system, following AICT, UGC and all, it's really tough for the institution. But even then, we have been moving forward. Today, most of the leaders agree that coming up with disruptive ideas, critical thinking, and innovation methods of problem solving are the key parameters for the business. With that point, whenever we meet, our recruiters come. Always they say that we look still beyond. Whatever we do, the end of the day, they put us again to think further, what kind of further skills we have to move further. A strong bonding between the academic institute and the industry can be the key bridging the gap today. The collaboration should not stop or limit towards getting projects or internships or industrial visits that of the industry. But joint curriculum development, joint research activities, problem solving through some innovation challenges, entrepreneurial development programs, and sharing some ethical aspects to the industry. That probably will put forward kind of institutions like us to move forward, to meet out the industry requirement on date and also for the future. This is what Hindustan is doing now. I think kind of industry linkages with big giants like IBM Career Education, Google for Education, all these kind of top-notch education sector we have with us as academic partners. Now we have been discussing with Coursera also to have, because the technical updated knowledge we want to give it to our students. It's not possible right now from our teachers, because our teachers are not that equipped to teach these disruptive technologies then and they're updating. So in that context, I strongly feel that the right mix earlier among that fundamental knowledge, meta knowledge, and humanistic knowledge, these three major areas, knowledge, skill, and attitude. We are realigning our total process. For our arts and science system, fundamental knowledge comes around 60%.
I think we're having some
Maybe
technical problems with you,
15%
Dr.
of
Karunakaran.
the meta knowledge and about 20%. I believe I'm in. Am I audible?
So, Dr. Karunakaran, you're breaking off, and I think Rajita has to leave. So, I'd love to, have the last question to Rajita before she goes away. I think we also have Professor Supriya with us. So, ma'am, I'll be coming to you in a second, but because Rajita has to leave, one last question to you, one last thought. Specific things, practical things that you're doing in terms of industry academia alliances and working together, Rajita.
Thanks, Atul, for accommodating me. And, I shared a great deal of detail last week. We were on a similar discussion, but I'll keep it short. And I want to answer this, Atul, more from a point of view of new universities. Once you are established, you also have a certain, you establish a certain track record, and then it becomes easier. But when you are new, what can you do? So a few things which we have done, which have worked well for us and might be a good input for others. One is we started with, actually before our academic programs, Atul, we started with a skill center for rural youth. So the first thing in Srish University we started was a Larsen and Toubro skill center for construction skills. We have trained about 2,500-3,000 students, young boys from Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, the neighboring states as well. Then we started a project with Schneider for distribution of solar lamps in our neighboring villages. Now, those two things are not directly linked to the university higher education mandate, but that created a very good first step for us to get two really great, great organizations to partner with Srish University. The second thing practically can be done, which we did, was we looked at industry houses which already have education programs. For example, National Stock Exchange has a collaborative capital markets program. So we have a NSE capital market program we did with them. Then Future Group that time had a retail, MBA in retail marketing program. So we did a MOU with them. So companies which have already existing educational partnership collaboration programs are again a good step to start with. That's the second thing. Third, what always works is local partnerships, public or private or government. Like Milk Mantra is a homegrown Odisha, Bhubaneswar outfit. We are completely integrated with them. What Professor Vrat was saying, really it's an equal partnership. They take students from us, they give projects, they do internships, we do management development programs for them. So it's looking at local partnerships. I can see you. Do you wish me to stop, or it's?
You can take a minute more, Rajita. Just a minute more.
Yeah. So looking at local partnerships in Odisha, again, we have companies like Nalco, Paradeep Port. Now, those are local partnerships and there is also a certain state pride associated with it. So those are good starting points. The next I say is the power of our networks. I think that is the one thing, the pandemic, I think we should be grateful for. All of us are also meeting so much more. So all the sort of business, chambers of commerce, platforms, it's great. We became a member of NHRD. We hosted conferences with them. So many corporates came because of that. Now, all of these things start a sort of a momentum, and then that kind of continues. Like Startup Odisha is a very big project and very big initiative of the government of Odisha. We are the nodal agency for that. So just yesterday, for example, we were doing a review. Just in the last 2 months, we have evaluated about 65 startups. So where the government of Odisha gives partnership. So you have to even come forward and offer some services from your side. And it's like then a more symbiotic, synergistic kind of a partnership. And recently,
That's a very, very holistic
yeah.
set of initiatives that you're doing, Rajita. Wish
And
you
just
good luck.
20
I think
seconds,
maybe
Atul,
20
20
seconds.
seconds.
Go
Last
ahead.
week, we did what we feel is a really full-blown partnership with IBM. So we've launched a co-branded Faculty of Emerging Technologies with IBM, because we don't have currently that skill set, and IBM is bringing that. So which is AI and data science integrated MBAs for such programs. So that is like the full-blown partnership that one can look at. So various types of partnerships.
Fantastic. I think that's great work you're doing, Rajita. Wish you good luck, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you
I
for
personally need
accommodating.
some help from you. We had to speak, so I'll separately call you
Yes.
during the day. But thank you very much for being such a wonderful and articulate speaker that you always are. I will now switch to Professor Supriya, who's been very patiently waiting for us. Professor Supriya is the Vice Chancellor of Centurion University, and she's been involved in very actively building industry academia relationships at Centurion. So we'd love to understand your vision towards industry academia relationships, ma'am. We'll specifically come to activities that you're doing, but how do you see the whole industry academia environment evolve over time? Do you see it getting deeper? And how are you treating that at Centurion University?
Yeah.
Over to you,
So
Professor
thank you,
Supriya.
Professor Khosla. First of all, thank you so much. Just to say a little bit about myself first, I'm primarily a social scientist. So I have not much of a background in engineering other than the fact that I have now heading this is a skills university, Centurion University in Odisha, recognized by the state government as a skill university. And my background is primarily from the development sector. So the reason I'm saying that is to highlight to you the kind of uh, clientele that we cater to. We're based in Odisha, and of course, the kind of population that Odisha has. It's a very large percentage of tribal and scheduled caste population, and also the poverty levels are very high. So we in the private sector, it's as it is pretty challenging because our headquarters campus is in one of the most remote areas. So having said that, we have right from the outset, we actually set out to have these kind of industry academia partnerships. And I've been hearing you from the outset. I'm a little concerned when you kind of always juxtapose this industry versus academia or knowledge versus practice. We have always looked at it as both industry and academia. And so I think I'm emphasizing that because we always are looking at industry as partners and not really as in the traditional way of industry in some ways looking at universities as beneficiaries. We are looking at them clearly as partners. So on the one hand we have industry actually not just partnering in curriculum development and things like that, but we would also like them to invest with us. So we have labs, workshops, which have actually been started by the industry. The first one was with Ashok Leyland, and then we have almost every one of them that some of them have named Schneider, and we have with you name it, Hyundai, Volvo Eicher, all of them. We have partnerships. Now, so this is one of the things that we have looked at. Again, I would like to highlight that within that also you will find sectoral differences. So some sectors traditionally they have worked very well with academia. So we know that the hospitality industry, for example, has worked, hotel management and things like that has worked very well with academia. But some other areas that we see And I kind of would like to point out that IT and ITES is one of the sectors where where academia is only for recruitment. But although the previous speaker talked about a partnership with IBM, and we also tried to do that, and for a variety of reasons, it's kind of limping. But it is a very important aspect that some sectors don't work as well as other. Manufacturing, yes, it seems to work very well. Automotive, it works well. But other areas, some sectors, it really doesn't work well. The other thing we'd like to mention very specifically how we work in Centurion is when we are trying to look at integrating skills. We're looking at integrating skills at different levels, and I mean we have seen all of it happening, and lots of our experienced panelists before this have talked about it. But I think what is going to be a real challenge in the future is what the new education policy talks about is the multiple entry, multiple exit. And I think unless we have a system of articulation which talks about how somebody would move from gather credits in one course and then decide to move to another university or another course, how's that going to happen? I think that is going to be a real challenge for the future. But we ourselves are looking at, and we have already started that process of articulation ourselves to enable that to happen. So if somebody is doing a science degree somewhere along the way, wants to change, go into some other course, then how do you carry over some of the credits earned there into other things? Or we have started something now which we call skills for success. So they actually students take up skills which are maybe totally unrelated to the course that they're doing, but they learn a completely new skill which enables them to take it forward. So there are a whole range of things that we are attempting to enable students to uh, have a career path in a particular way. I would also like to say when it comes to because we have had some questions regarding this, I look at the future of online as being more of a blended kind of a thing rather than again the either or. So you will have some components of online teaching which will continue, and you'd still, as I think Mr. Raghav Gupta said, that we hope that the physical classes actually do continue as well. Because I mean there is a whole range of things that you can do and work through a personal connect with your students that don't happen otherwise. So I think that is what is the way we look at in terms of how we integrate skills with the education at Centurion.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Professor
so much.
Supriya. I think these were very insightful thoughts. We have around 17 minutes to go. I will request the audience to please throw questions. We'd love to answer all of them. So please type in your comments, your questions, and we'll be delighted to answer all of them. I'm sure all of us will be. I think the next round, I would like to make it a little bit of rapid fire. And my first, the personal first answer, my question is going to be Raghav. So, Raghav, you've seen 3,700 universities, like you said. Three things, very quickly, three things that you think academia or universities or colleges should do to improve their industry academia alliances and improve skills. Three things from your top of the mind.
I think firstly, understanding what industry needs better. I don't think enough universities understand it. Second, having a clear strategy of what happens on campus and what happens online. And third, thinking about an industry partnership as a strategic partnership and not just limiting it to talking to the talent acquisition team, but to think about how do you talk to the core business strategy of the industry. I think that would be my third.
Fantastic. I think you've hit the nail on the head, Raghav. What a beautiful answer. Professor Prem, you wear two hats. You've been on the IIT, you've seen IITs and now Northcap. Tell us three things that you think universities are doing or should be doing for enhancing industry academia relationships.
Yeah. One is that I mean, as I already said, that the moment you look at these two sides of the same coin, you can't have a coin of only one side. So therefore, both of these have to evolve together. And one way would be to have a partnership in evolving a combined joint course, which can be partly delivered by the industry. Now, we have evolved in my university right now a concept of what is known as professor of practice. Now, and therefore, normally for a professor, you require a PhD. Whereas, as for a professor of practice, you can be appointed as a professor of practice without a PhD, with a master's degree, be adequate. And therefore, this person would actually be supplementing the learning component, which is based on more experiential learning rather than maybe from the research. Second issue that I'll be doing, in fact, we are already doing, that let the industry as the ultimate recipient of these products that we nurture should give us the problems. So instead of having imaginary problems in projects and let the real problems be referred to the universities or institutions by the industry, so that we give these students the actual projects, and together with the joint supervision, we are able to find an answer which will be a holistic answer, a total solution, which will require all aspects of the problem, and therefore this perhaps would enrich. And thirdly, what I'm seeing now, the new education policy is a great opportunity for further cementing the bond. Now, it's possible for people from industry to acquire higher qualifications or master's and doctoral degree in an almost an online mode or in a blended learning. And therefore, if many of these people are involved in the university for upgrading their own professional qualifications, and the projects handled by them are real life projects from industry, this bonding would further be improved. And already we are having that, and almost everyone is having on almost every university, because the AICT is pushing it, the creativity, innovation and incubation centers. So almost in every university is having an incubation center where we are trying to nurture new ideas to make them into to a product form, and therefore industry is playing and can play a very powerful role in this. So these are a few initiatives which can be easily implemented and are being done.
Thank you, Professor Vrat. I think like I said, you've hit the nail on the head. For example, coming to incubation at Shoolini, apart from, of course, having an incubation center, we've also created a seed fund, and we're trying to get SEBI recognition for that, going through the regulatory process to ensure that we can actually fund a student startup. So what a beautiful idea. Tarun, you've been having trouble on technology, so I'm going to catch you now before we lose you again. Quick rapid fire. 3 practical things that you've been doing with all your industry partners to ensure that students get great skills from the industry and you deepen your industry academy partnerships. Very quickly, 3 practical things.
So one of the things we've done is that we've made it a credit course, a consulting project. So every student has to go into industry and solve a problem, and produce a report which he or she will, and he or she gets credit, and they get paid for it by the industry. So that's mandatory, and that's what they need to do when they go into the world. They're going to be solving problems. So we say start here. That's one. Number 2 is we say every student has to come up with a sponsored research paper. So we are pushing our students to go out into industry and do sponsored research. And if they can't do sponsored research, then they have to come up with a research paper on a particular industry or sector and then present it in the industry. So those are the 2 things. And the third important thing we have been pushing our students to do is write a case study. Right, so partner up with a student. Of course, there'll be guidance from the faculty, and then actually, especially since COVID has happened, the world has changed dramatically. How can we can learn some of the amazing pivots that industry has done to survive and thrive in this pandemic. So we want those stories out. So we're pushing our students to go out there and develop case studies with caselets, and then hopefully publish them when they are of a high quality level.
Phenomenal. I'm writing all these inputs because these are so wonderful, and all of you have been so unique in your answers, starting from Raghav, of course. Professor Supriya, your 3 practical tips that you're doing at Centurion.
Well, I think I would like to emphasize that one of the things we are doing is having industry-linked domains in the final years for engineering students in the 8th semester. So they kind of specialize in a particular domain, and those are, again, like I said, we have very clearly the industry sponsored. One of our partnerships is with, for example, with the salt systems, and our students have learned the various mm, tools that they have, and they, in fact, in turn, are helping other state governments and other colleges, other
Ma'am, I'm
universities
really having
to.
trouble hearing you. Tarun, Raghav, can you hear Professor Supriya, ma'am, or is it me?
No, it's tough.
Ma'am, could you please
Maybe
check your...
if you're louder, it might help, Professor Supriya.
I guess
If you can
it's a line of.
switch your video off and answer the question. Could you try that?
Yeah, maybe I should do that. Yeah, is that better?
Not
Is
really.
that better?
Okay, why don't you try once? We can try once more.
Okay. So one of the things I just want to highlight is what we're doing is having these industry-linked domain training for our final semester students.
Supriya, it's not working. My
They
request
are
would be,
actually.
Professor Supriya, it's not working. My request would be if you can please check your bandwidth. We'll come back to you in a minute.
Yeah.
I'll
No,
move over
it's
to
been bad all
till then.
day.
Dr.
Unfortunately.
Supriya, we can't hear you very well, if you don't mind. Okay, if you can just check your internet connection, we'll come back to you. And probably technical can please support them. Abhishek, could you please support Professor Supriya? Same question to you, Dr. Karunakaran. 3 practical things that you've done at the Hindusthan group of institutions.
See, number 1, we develop the communication skill of our students. The entire campuses are being practiced with the industry partner, the Hindu. The Hindu STEP program is being given away for our students with 80-hour intensive practice to improve the communication ability. This is the point number 1. Second is we have incorporated the life skills as the core credit papers, Jeevan Kaushal curriculum recommended by UGC, even in engineering programs. This is the second thing. To improve the social skills and other life skills related to our students. Third important thing is new era technology skills, which really we are finding it very, very difficult to impart from our college. So we take the help of the industry partners, maybe IBM or Coursera kind of things. So these are the best 3 things we take up, we effectively implement, and to see that our students are employable at the end of the day.
I think it's a wonderful list of 15 odd initiatives that I've actually written on my piece of paper. Hopefully, audience, you've been doing that because these are so wonderful. And I hope Elets has and the World Education Summit will come up with proceedings because this has been such a fantastic discussion. All of you came up with such unique thoughts. I always end my panel by giving every panelist an opportunity to speak for 30 seconds. Any thought that you've not spoken before. So we'll go around the table, but last thought, 30 seconds. So we'll start with Tarun and with no particular order. Tarun, last thoughts, 30 seconds.
So I think it's a fantastic. I'm very excited about the opportunities. There's just we've got to change our mindsets, and anybody who can do that and do it fast is got the entire, can do magic in this industry. That's all I'll say.
Fantastic. Living in disruption. So I think it's a huge opportunity for all of us and the industry to work together. What beautiful thought. Raghav, last thoughts.
In general, Atul, I would say, I think the pace of change that we're experiencing in industry and in higher education is unlike any of us have ever experienced before. And I've seen this myself, right? February last year, we had 30 institutions using Coursera for campus. Today, there are 3,700, where 21 lakh students have taken 2.1 crore courses. So this pace that we have seen in the last 12 months is phenomenal. And with the NEP coming in, the pace of change that will continue over the next 12 months, I think is only up to our imagination in terms of...
Your thoughts. I mean, you are the oldest amongst us.
No. All right. I mean, my thoughts may not be that old, although I'm old. Actually, what we need to, we really need to do, as I mentioned, a transformation, adopt each other. Let the university and industry adopt each other, recognizing that they both need each other. They're incomplete without the other person. And therefore, the moment we do that, everything else would fall in place. We would evolve a right curriculum, a balance, we'll deliver it, we'll solve actual problems which are relevant to the society instead of having absolutely imaginary problems and or extensions of American professors. And therefore, adopting each other and then helping each other to enrich each other's performance perhaps is a major thing we can do. That rest would follow.
Absolutely. That's what I'm told Nalanda and Takshila would do. Solve people problems, solve problems with the industry, have alliances. Fantastic. Dr. Karunakaran, last thoughts.
Yeah, my last thought is the quote of Malcolm. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today.
Fantastic. Professor Supriya, if you're around, last thoughts from you.
Well, I think that the way to go for universities is hands-on, experience-based, practice-oriented, leading to social impact and in a sustainable manner.
Sustainability. I think what a wonderful thought. I think that's what beautiful discussion we've had. Thank you, Elets. Thank you, World Education Summit. I think this has been amongst the most, I would say, educative and the most inspirational panel discussions for me. Very, very thankful to all of you, especially Elets and the World Education Summit to make this happen. My last thoughts are driven by everything that all of you have said. We live in a world of disruption, but it also puts a lot of responsibility on us. I think it's an opportunity for all of us to step up the game in India and probably produce the next Harvard of the world. I think we used to have great institutions. That's what I was told 1,000 years back. This is the time for us to recreate them. And we can. All we have to do is think passionately, think with love. I'll quote a very interesting quote of Shah Rukh Khan, इतनी शिद्दत से तुम्हें पाने की कोशिश की है कि हर जर्रे ने हमें मिलाने की कोशिश की है. So शिद्दत से let us build a great set of institutions that are aligned with the academia, institutions that are disrupting every holy cow that exists. And with that, I think we can build a phenomenal environment of education in the country, and India can become a great country once again. Last thought, COVID is still on, my dear panelists. Please wear your masks. Please make sure that you're still taking precautions. And with that, I'd love to hand over to my friends at Elets with a thank you once again. And thank you, panelists. You've been so wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Atul. You were excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Atul. This was really good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Atul sir. Thank you very much for this wonderful moderation. And I request Anand to share the speaker certificate token of appreciation from the World Education Summit and Elets to appreciate the delivery and the moderation that has been done by Atul sir and the delivery done by all the panelists of this speaker. So this speaker certificate is presented to Professor Atul Khosla, founder and Vice Chancellor, Shoolini University, Solan, Himachal Pradesh. Thank you, Atul sir, for giving your precious time.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Professor Prem, Vrat, Chairman, Board of Governors, IIT, ISM, Dhanbad and Mandi, and Pro Chancellor, the Northcap University, Gurugram. Thank you, Professor Prem, Vrat, sir. Thank you for your precious time to World Education Summit.
Thank you.
And speaker certificate is presented to Dr. K. Karunakaran, CEO, Hindusthan Educational Institutions from Coimbatore. Thank you, Karunakaran sir, for giving your time and valuable deliverables to the World Education Summit.
Thank you, Professor Atul, and thank you, Elets.
And the speaker certificate is presented to Rajita Kulkarni, President, CVC University, Cuttack. And she has left in middle of the session, so we will send this. And speaker certificate is presented to Tarundeep Singh, Anand, founder and chairman, Universal Business School, Mumbai. Thank you, Tarundeep sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Professor Supriya Pattanayak, Vice Chancellor, Centurion University of Technology and Management, Odisha. Thank you, Supriya ma'am. Thank you for giving your time and wonderful feedbacks.
Thank you.
So by this, we are wrapping this session, and I thanks all my speakers and I thanks my audience. If you have any question, you can take it offline And we have a speaker certificate to the Raghav Gupta, sir, Managing Director, India and APAC from Coursera. Thank you, Raghav, sir. Thank you for giving your time and this valuable deliverance. So I request all my audience, if you have any question, you can follow all our speakers on their social handles as well. They are very much active on their social handles, and you can drop your questions at digitallearning.in also. So we can forward to our speaker and they will take it back. So by this, we are moving to our next session, and I request Aman to play the AV so that we can move over to the next session. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.